Hey everyone, it's Jeremy Osterberger. We're here at the ECC Annual PerspECCtives Conference in National Harbor, Maryland, and I'm really excited to be joined by Mark Fields. Mark is Group President for Project Execution at Fluor. Mark, how's it going?
Good. No, I think everyone's having a good conference here. It looks like we've had some beautiful weather, nice facility, and some really engaging speakers.
Mark, I've been inside too much, man. We should have done this outside.
It was very nice. It looks like it's nice this morning. I haven't been out there yet.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for making time for us here at ECC. I know you're involved with the organization, and obviously you're, 40 plus years with Fluor. You're real familiar with ECC. So.
Yes. No, I've been here and spoken a few different times and come to the conference. I think it's a worthy institution.
So, Mark, the theme this year is Thrive. Tell me your thoughts on that. What have been some of the sessions or forums that you participated in, and what do you think of the conference so far?
I think it's been a good conference. I think, looking to the future, evolution and how do we continue to evolve and, be prepared for the future is going to be important to the clients and to the contractors that are engaged here in the conference. As we look forward, there's always many different changes, and we see those from a year ago. We've seen changes today, and I think that is the constant, is change, and we have to be prepared for it.
So Mark, you participated in a panel discussion on avoiding disputes in large capital projects. What are the most common root causes of disputes in energy and chemical projects?
I think a lot of times when you see disputes, you look at, there's a different view on who owned the risk. Sometimes you have risks that are unbalanced. People take on risks, be it the owner or the contractor, that they really don't control. When they can't control the risk and those risks actually mature, then that usually leads to a dispute or a serious discussion about who's going to compensate for those risks.
Yeah, it makes sense. And how can owners and contractors align better when we talk about scope, risk, execution strategies, really from the onset of the project?
Very mature groups, I think they sit down and they go through the scope in detail. They go through, who's responsible for what. They talk about changes. What happens if this happens? Who owns that change? And they have those kind of agreements and discussions up front, so that they understand how to price, how to estimate. You really get into the situation where you simulate some things, you have an execution strategy where both parties agree on the execution strategy. Too many times people just quote a paper scope. They don't have the discussion, they don't have the dialogue, and then later when things mature, one party believes that it was like X and the other party believes it was like Y, and there's a dispute in between. So I think the most mature groups sit down and have a really deep conversation on who owns which risk, what risks are in the project, how are they going to be addressed, what does the execution strategy do to really look at these risks, and how do we handle them.
And Mark, are there specific project governance practices that have helped reduce conflict in your experience?
There's a number of them, but I think some of the most basics on the project is have a change meeting every week or 2 weeks where people, if there is a change, put it on the table and let's have a discussion about it.
Right.
Too many times things fester and one party thinks it's not a change and the other party thinks it is a change, and they don't sit down and talk about it. They don't find a resolution to those things, and they just get worse over time.
Right.
So I think dealing with change, addressing it, try to get it out of the way, agree it in a very timely fashion, eliminates many conflicts. And then when those conflicts can't be eliminated, most good projects and major projects have a sponsor from both parties, senior executives that are sponsors on the projects. And a lot of times they come in and meet, it depends on the project, maybe monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly. And during those meetings, they can surface issues that are not getting resolved and help the project team facilitate resolution. You don't want the sponsors to be making all the decisions on the projects, but you want them to be sure that those decisions are being made in a timely manner.
Mark, I want to get a little deeper in the schedule, cost, and change management. And how should changes in scope, maybe market conditions or regulations, be handled to prevent adversarial situations?
I think that, you know, the first thing is a good contract, a good division of responsibility where everybody understands, you know, who owns the risk. You know, if there's going to be contingency for a risk, who owns that contingency? And it depends on whether you're in a lump sum contract or a reimbursable contract, whether, you know, that whole alignment of interest about, you know, who has the risk and who's going to price it. I think that's the first foundational issue. And then, you know, as we go through, getting a clear understanding on what is a change versus what's design development. Too many times on projects, people say, well, that's just design development, even though we added, you know, 3 different pieces of equipment and rerouted everything. That's not a change, it's design development, and the contractor thinks, no, that's a change. Gotcha. So getting clear understanding of, you know, what is a scope change up front. It's kind of like who's responsible.
And that's going to vary from project to project. Do you see it vary from industry to industry?
I think it does. Some industries are, you know, some of the industries are more turnkey, where they say it's more about if I get X tons of product and at a certain energy efficiency, that's a requirement of the contract. Other contracts are, I want to know, you know, I want so many instruments, I want, you know, so many widgets coming out of the contract, and in a very detailed level, where the client's very involved on where to place an instrument, where to place a valve, where some of the contracts are, here's a turnkey price, and I just want to know whether it produces what the product spec is and a quantity. So there's a lot of variables out there. I think, you know, the key is getting a clear understanding between the parties on, you know, what are they contracting for and how do they deal with change and what is a change.
Mark, I want to get more from you on collaboration. How do collaborative models impact dispute resolution mechanisms and long-term relationship building?
I think some of the clients that use collaborative models, I think a number of them have had a lot of success where they have longer-term relationships, and sometimes it's very difficult to resolve an issue, but people will resolve an issue because of the collaboration nature of the contract and because of the long-term relationship. Those, I think, pay benefits and dividends over the years. Many times, some of the best ones I've seen where you incentivize the project team, not only the contractor, but the owner team for the outcome. So you get both parties aligned on what the outcome is. To me, those are the most successful, where you see the project team working to achieve the goal and both parties have aligned interest. Those have yielded some fantastic results over the years that I've seen.
So Mark, we've talked about mitigating disputes, but when they do happen, you know, what are some of the most effective early intervention tools for de-escalating a project conflict before it becomes a real formal dispute?
I think a lot of times it's, you know, it starts at the project level, and the sponsors and the executives from both parties need to watch the behaviors of both parties and see, are they both working to resolve issues, and if they're not, how do we inject maybe some additional help to the project where they can sit down and, you know, with a very neutral mindset come in and analyze what the issues are and try to figure out how do we solve this problem without letting it escalate. I think it takes maturity, and it takes a fair and balanced view from both parties to do that. Sometimes when one party is only focused on one issue and the other's focused on another issue, it's very difficult. But
that's right. Well, Mark, we thank you so much for sitting down with BIC Magazine here at the ECC conference, and great discussion we had on this topic, and I'm just grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you, Jeremy, and enjoy the rest of the conference, and hope you have a safe trip home.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you.